All Elite Wrestling currently has several former WWE superstars under contract on their roster, but could several WWE legends and Hall of Famers be set to sign with AEW and become All Elite in the near future? We'll let you know in this countdown video. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of stories to get into. And before we get into today's countdown video, a reminder, you can join the WN 365 roster by clicking that join button. You get your badges, your emojis, and your exclusive members-only content. As you can see in the bottom right-hand corner there, we are less than 200 subscribers away from 20,000 subs. A major milestone for this channel. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Click the notification bell. You'll be notified when new videos are uploaded. New countdown videos, daily news videos, as well as live watch-alongs and post-show, including tomorrow night at the time of recording this video, Monday Night Raw live on Netflix internationally and around the United States. The final stop on the WWE European Tour. We'll be live for a watch-along and a post-show. Now, let's talk about which WWE legends and Hall of Famers could be set to become All Elite and join AEW in the future, beginning with maybe a bit of an obvious one here, that being WWE Hall of Famer Beth Phoenix. Now, to be honest, ever since the Rated R superstar Cope, Adam Copeland, Edge, whatever you want to call him, has joined AEW, there's been speculation as to when is Beth Phoenix going to become All Elite. She's no longer under contract to WWE. She left the company after doing a variety of different roles, not too long before Edge, of course, eventually signed with AEW back in 2023. But, of course, as I mentioned, when it comes to Beth Phoenix, she is the wife of Adam Copeland of Edge, of Cope, whatever you want to call him, whatever name you want to call him. And after she was a commentator with WWE NXT for about 3 years, wasn't it? 2019 through 2021. Then she left the company. She did sort of sporadic appearances with the organization, actually wrestling with Edge on a couple of occasions, involved in a match against The Miz and Maurice at the Royal Rumble. Of course, there was also a match involving Rhea Ripley and also Finn Balor too. But in August of 2024, Phoenix announced that her WWE contract had just expired and became a free agent. This was actually during an interview with Chris Van Vliet. It was originally reported by PW Insider that her contract had expired in July of 2024. So really, ever since then, there's just been the question of when is she going to join her husband in AEW? Cope has been on the record stating that this contract that this run that he's having in AEW is going to be his last as an active in-ring performer. Once he finishes up with AEW, he's going to retire, and one would think possibly Beth Phoenix might want to join her husband in the ring at least one more time before she eventually decides to retire for good. Of course, they've got young children. Maybe they want to see them compete in the ring once more. And actually, if you want to get technical about this, you could say, Owen, well, Beth Phoenix has actually already appeared kind of in AEW, because every single time that Cope's theme song plays, that being Metalingus by Alter Bridge, You Think You Know Him, which of course in WWE, I don't even know who was the mysterious woman who was saying that every single time. In AEW, instead of it, You Think You Know Me, it's You Think You Know Him, and You Think You Know Him is actually said by Beth Phoenix. So she has actually appeared, in terms of her voice, several times on AEW programming, but never actually in person on AEW TV, and certainly never competed inside of an AEW ring. So when it comes to Beth Phoenix, it just feels like it's a matter of time before she eventually does at least compete or appear on AEW television. As of right now, it's not yet to happen. She is still a WWE legend, a WWE Hall of Famer, not under contract to WWE anymore. So the question is, when is she going to become All Elite? Now, continuing with the theme of people, I guess, related to Adam Copeland, Cope, Gangrel. Now, we've seen Gangrel appear once on AEW programming. You can see it right there. Well, actually, a couple of times technically. Once we saw him with the Young Bucks when they were feuding with the Hardy Boys back in 2022. Because there was an episode of Dynamite, wasn't there, where the Young Bucks came to the ring kind of cosplaying as Matt and Jeff Hardy. I think Brandon Cutler was Lita, and Gangrel also accompanied them to the ring. They were the New Brood back in WWE times. So Gangrel made an appearance there. But more recently, he made an appearance on AEW programming at Double or Nothing back in 2024 when Adam Copeland defended the AEW TNT Championship against Malachi Black. Of course, in that match, he actually got injured, Adam Copeland, after diving off the top of the cage, breaking his leg in the process. But during that match, Gangrel appeared from under the ring, through the canvas. It was during Adam Copeland's feud against Malachi Black in the House of Black. So there was kind of sort of a brood Attitude versus House of Black kind of vibe. And actually, Adam Copeland had stated several times that he wanted Gangrel to appear on WWE programming with him. He had done the Brood entrance a couple of times on WWE TV, but the powers that be just never really wanted Gangrel to once again appear on WWE television. Now, Gangrel isn't a Hall of Famer. He's certainly a WWE legend from his time in the Brood, or his time in the Ministry, his time in WWE back in the Attitude Era, and possibly with rumors that we could see maybe Cope team up with Christian Cage after their feud has finished now in AEW. Of course, they're always going to be tied together, but there could be a situation where possibly you see the Brood reunite as a trio to go after the AEW World Trios Championships, right? You've got Christian Cage already in AEW. You've got Adam Copeland under contract in AEW. There is certainly a possibility that Gangrel could sign an AEW contract, and then we could see the Brood team up once again and maybe even win the AEW World Trios Championship. So it doesn't feel impossible that we could see Gangrel do more than just a cameo appearance, more than just an occasional one-off, and actually become All Elite full-time in the future. That one could be a possibility. Now, continuing on once again with this theme, and this is actually a bit of a recurring theme throughout this countdown video, throughout this list. What about the possibility of the man-beast himself, former ECW World Champion Rhyno, becoming All Elite? Now, Rhyno, he does have the connection with Adam Copeland, with Cope, because he's very good friends with Copeland, with Christian Cage. In WWE, they were linked together. Of course, Rhyno was involved in TLC at WrestleMania 17. He was actually quite responsible for helping push Christian Cage and Adam Copeland up the ladder to win that match and the WWE Tag Team Championships in the process. As of right now, Rhyno, he's not under contract to any company. Of course, over the last few years, he was under contract to WWE. Eventually, he left WWE and then was actually for a period of time in TNA Wrestling, of course, for a long period of time. He returned to WWE in 2015 to 2019. He was initially just in NXT, then he was on the main roster for a period of time. Then, of course, he was in Impact Wrestling for about 5 years, from 2019 right until the end of 2024, actually. In just December of last year, Rhyno announced that he was parting way with TNA, and he had his last scheduled final match was at an Impact taping in December of that year. Now, Rhyno, in more recent times, in terms of professional wrestling, he's actually been doing shots for the National Wrestling Alliance at the time recording this video. At Hard Times 5, he made his debut in the NWA, confronting Tom Latimer after his match. The NWA has announced that Rhyno will be challenging Tom Latimer for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship at the Crockett Cup. It's going to be taking place in the old ECW arena, so certainly there's a connection there. Rhyno did actually make an appearance on WWE television fairly recently too. He did. He made his appearance on the episode of WWE NXT at the former ECW arena, hitting a gore at the time, but as of right now, he's not actively under contract to any organization, and that could be key. So in the same way that I'm talking about Gangrel possibly reuniting with Edge and Christian Cage and Adam Copeland, maybe we see Rhyno once again reunite with his former friends during that time. Of course, Rhyno's from Detroit, Michigan, not far away from Canada. They would do a lot of loops together, a lot of tours together during their fledgling days as professional wrestlers, and Rhyno, as of right now, he's never made an appearance on AEW programming. So possibly we could see a situation where Rhyno could actually make an AEW debut, become All Elite in the future. Maybe even if it's just a cameo appearance. Rhyno, considered by many to be a WWE legend, certainly a legend of professional wrestling, whether it be in obviously WWE, ECW, TNA, now in the NWA. Could he add AEW to the list and possibly reunite with the likes of Adam Copeland and Christian Cage? Now, what about Kurt Angle? This is certainly an interesting one because it's not the first time, obviously, that we've heard reports and rumors that Kurt Angle had significant interest from those in AEW. After Kurt Angle retired from professional wrestling in 2019, there were reports that AEW, in the really early stages of the company, had reached out to Kurt Angle because, of course, Kurt Angle retired at WrestleMania 35 back in 2019. He had his final match against Baron Corbin. And there was talks at the time, and I think the general thing that was kind of shared by most professional wrestling fans was it felt very, very flat. His match at WrestleMania was it the penultimate match on the show? It only went about sort of 6 or 7 minutes, not very long at all. And people had hoped that it was going to be John Cena or something bigger for the Olympic gold medalist in his final professional wrestling match, and it felt very, very flat. So, of course, as I mentioned, there were rumors, there were reports that AEW during this time period, they'd reached out to Kurt Angle because Angle was under contract to WWE post-retirement. But early in 2020, it was announced that Kurt Angle had been released from his WWE contract. It was part of the budget cuts concerning the COVID-19 pandemic. And whilst he was out of contract, AEW reportedly had reached out to him at the time and said, look, you maybe didn't end your career the way you wanted to. You could come in, similar to kind of Sting in AEW, and you could have 1 match, 2 matches, maybe a handful of matches, and end your career the way that it should go. Now, Kurt Angle ultimately turned him down, saying he just didn't feel like his body could do what it was needed to do to wrestle in professional wrestling anymore. Every single time he's done an interview, really since then, as recently as with Chris Van Vliet, he said that, look, my body just can't handle it. I couldn't handle it. He actually very recently did actually take some bumps again. He admitted for an advert for a college football game, I believe it was, or it might have been an NFL game. It was a sort of a wrestling themed advert, and he did take a couple of bumps. And he mentioned afterwards that he was in a lot of pain afterwards, and his wife said, you're never taking any bumps ever again. So if Kurt Angle was to come into AEW, he certainly wouldn't be wrestling, even if it's cinematic, because we've kind of found out that cinematic matches are just as grueling as the matches inside of the ring. In fact, they could actually be more grueling because you've got to stop, start, reset, do the thing again from different camera angles, whereas in the ring, it's one time only, go. You don't have a second take. When it's cinematic, you have several takes. It's like, of course, filming a movie. It's cinematic. So if Angle were to come into AEW, certainly it would not be in a wrestling role, but that doesn't mean he couldn't come in as a character. It doesn't mean he couldn't come in to cut promos. That doesn't mean he couldn't come in just to be involved in storylines somehow, some way, the same way that a William Regal was when he was in AEW, or other legends have been managers or spokespeople or commentators or what have you. That's certainly a possibility. So Kurt Angle, he's a WWE Hall of Famer. He was inducted, of course, into the WWE Hall of Fame back in 2017, and perhaps he could become All Elite in the future. I believe right now, I think he's under a Legends deal to WWE. You never know. There have been incidents and there have been certain stars that they're under Legend contract actively with WWE, and they're still in AEW doing their thing, appearing on television every single week. So it's not an impossibility. Every Legends deal is certainly different depending on the star. Now, most recently, Kurt Angle has been on WWE television, where he was amongst the WWE Legends ringside at the Royal Rumble. So it feels unlikely, but as I said, it's pro wrestling. Anything's possible, and you just can't rule out anything. So who's to say Kurt Angle couldn't become All Elite in the future and actually appear in the company that wanted to appear in the company way back in 2019 and 2020. And finally, AJ Styles. Ever since AEW's been around, AJ Styles has been linked with a move to All Elite Wrestling. In fact, according to some reports, the first ever episode of AEW Dynamite was largely built around the idea that AJ Styles, along with Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson, were going to be debuting for AEW. At one point, the working plan for the premiere episode of AEW Dynamite on TNT was that the show was going to air from Madison Square Garden, and it was going to end with AJ Styles, Gallows, and Anderson facing off with the Elite inside of the ring. And there is legitimacy to that story, because in 2019, the contracts of AJ Styles, Anderson, and Gallows were all coming up. There were reports of AEW, Tony Khan at the time, making offers. AEW still wasn't really a thing at the time. You know, I don't even know if they'd had their first Double or Nothing show. It was a concept, and there was big money getting thrown around, but I don't even know if they had a TV deal. And WWE, they were going on the offensive. They were re-signing everyone to long-term contracts to prevent them from going to AEW. And including that, they made offers to AJ Styles. He signed a new 5-year contract. They made offers to Gallows and Anderson, signed 5-year contracts. Well, not so long later, Gallows and Anderson were actually gone from the company, weren't they? AJ Styles remained. But ever since, there's always been these rumors and rumblings that AJ Styles could eventually, before he retires, go to AEW, become All Elite, reunite with members of the Elite, and have matches against Kenny Omega, have matches against some of the best that AEW have to offer. I guess it's a possibility. AJ Styles, he's coming towards the end of his career. He's openly admitted that maybe he has I don't know, 2-3 years left, something like that. Not a huge amount of time. And the contract that he's currently on could be his last. He's 47 years old at the time recording this video. I think he said maybe he wants to retire before he turns 50, and that would be in 3 years' time. There have been rumors and rumblings about his contract maybe expiring later on this year, at the end of the year. He has been out of action over the last couple of years. He has had a couple of injuries and had some hiatuses, some absences from WWE television. So even if his contract was set to expire, let's say in the middle of this year, time certainly could and will be added on for injuries. But at the same time, AJ Styles is a respected WWE legend. He came to WWE towards the end of his career, but still made an impact, winning the WWE Championship twice, winning nearly every single championship you can possibly think of. Last year was competing for the WWE Championship against the likes of Cody Rhodes, just as Rhodes had become the champion. But in more recent times, it's kind of felt like maybe he's not been doing too much. At WrestleMania, looks like he's going to be facing Logan Paul. And some might say to have an AJ Styles in a new company against a fresh batch of opponents just before he retires could be really exciting. Now, there have been reports and rumors of him wanting to possibly have another run in TNA before he retires, which certainly he could do if he's under contract to WWE because they have the working relationship. But it doesn't feel impossible, does it? And maybe it feels like actually towards the end of his career, maybe it's the best thing for him to go to AEW and have a fresh set of matches before he indeed decides to call it a day. But he might decide that WWE was always the place he was trying to get to, and he's had so much success there, and he is a respected veteran at this point in the company that he's just got no desire to go to AEW or anything like that. But we find ourselves in a unique situation where AJ Styles could be out of contract this year. Anderson and Gallows have been released by WWE. So once again, we could see Styles, Anderson and Gallows all out of contract and possibly find themselves in AEW, mirroring the plans for the first ever episode of AEW Dynamite. Wouldn't that be a strange moment? Would it be, though, at this point, several years too late, 6 years too late in 2025, or would it still be as good as it would have been in 2019? It's an interesting one, isn't it? So there you go, guys. There are some names, some WWE legends that could be on their way to AEW. Let me know your thoughts about them. Are there any names you agree with, disagree with? Any names I've missed off that list? Let me know your thoughts, your opinions, your hot takes in the comment section below. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As you can see right there, less than 200 subscribers to go until 20,000 subscribers. A major milestone here on the channel. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, click that notification bell. A reminder, we will be live for watch-alongs and post-shows, including tomorrow night for Monday Night Raw from London, from the O2, the final stop on the WWE Road to WrestleMania European Tour. And also, you can join the WN365 roster by clicking that join button. You get your badges, your emojis, and your exclusive members-only content. Appreciate everyone for tuning in, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.